Hi, this is our Northern Polytunnels allotment range. You can see we've now finished it off. We'll show you how to build it in a second. But what that includes is it comes with two of our zip doors, timber frames, and it's a trenched in structure, so you've got to dig a trench all the way around it to bury the polythene and then batten it on the doors. So the first step to do is to work out where you're going to put your tunnel. So firstly we're going to put one line in, which is either the side or the front, but it's wherever you want the side of the greenhouse or the front of the greenhouse to face in direction to anything, maybe a fence, a building or whatever. So I mean, we're quite lucky because we've got an open site, but first of all we'll get along and put some posts in. So our structure's 10-15 foot long, so if we start maybe here, say, yeah, we'll put one in there. There we go, we'll tie that on. And then about 20 foot back, we want to put another one in, and this is our first line. So now we want to do the front of the structure, so we'll put another post in on the outside of this line. The front of the structure going to be, because this is going to be the front corner. So yeah, you're right somewhere about there, I'd say. People often ask, can I put my polytunnel up on a site that's not level? When you're looking at polytunnels and trying to site it, they're okay to put on a slope lengthways, but side to side levels you can only get away with a little bit of amount, and that adjustment's on the foundation tubes. So when you're looking at your site, just have a think about where you're going to site it with the levels. We'll put a little bit more about that in the instructions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the 3-4-5 principle for getting things square, which is anybody done it, ever done any building? That's how we square buildings. So roughly we want to be wider than the structure, so maybe about 12 or 14 foot wide. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the marker pen to mark the line, which I find the easiest way of doing. So we'll use I'm going to use meters because it's big enough, but you can use feet as well. The bigger the scale, the more accurate the square is. Let's just put a dot on there where we want to start, Tom. There's somewhere about there. Yeah. So I'm going to go 4 meters up here. Okay, and we'll go 3 meters across on this line. Okay, I'll just put a little loop in there for you, Tom. You're going to go to the 4 meter one. So we've got a 3, 4, 5 triangle, which gives you 90 degrees at the corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the 5 meter up with my dot here, and that should give me a square. There we go. So if I get that, do you want to come this and pull a post in there? So once you've got your line in, it's safe just to check it and make sure we've got a 5 meter here, and that's at 90 degrees. So now we've got 2 lines. All we need to do is put another line across. So you can see now we've got us 2 lines in which are square. what we need to do now is put the two opposing lines in. So I'm going to measure from this one across, and then we're going to knock a stake in here at 10 foot. That's the width of our greenhouse. Now these are internal to internal measurements, so we'll put as foundation tubes on the outside of these lines. So that's giving us 10 foot there, so we'll put a piece of string on there, and then we'll measure 10 foot at the opposite end and put another post in. What we're going to do now is put the opposite line in, so we're going to measure 15 foot, which is the length of our structure. Right, let's have the line across. You can now see that we've got the polytunnel marked out, and that's 10 foot wide, 15 foot long. At this point it is worth checking that your dimensions are correct, because you can't go backwards from this point onwards. You can see now we've got all our 8 foundation tubes set in the ground, and they want to be between 400 and 450 out of the ground. What we're going to do now is take all the string downs and start to assemble the framework. So what we've got here, we've got a hoop to ridge bracket, 2 door frame brackets, 2 foundation collars. Make sure that the bolt which you're going to thread onto the hoop faces the inside, and then it's nice and smooth for the cover. So these want to go over the joint on the hoop. We don't have to tighten these up yet, it's just a case of getting them on the framework. And these need to go so the plate's facing the outside of the framework as well. So we'll just slide one on one side. And one on the other. And then just drop the foundation tube collars onto the foundations. So what we've got left there is the 2 bolts to bolt the door frame to the door frame brackets, and a bung for the end of the ridge. Okay, so next we're going to do an inner hoop pack. So same again as what we did on the first hoop. There's less fittings in this obviously, but we're going to drop the rings on the foundation tubes. And we're going to slot the hoop to ridge bracket on the ridge. This is a unique feature of Northern Polytunnels, and what we put jacking rings on for is so that you can tension the cover after you've finished covering and battening. You can lift the hoops up to tension the cover. So what we're going to do first of all, because we can't tension the end hoops, they're fixed to the door frame, so we're going to set these higher than the other ones. So we're going to set these at 150mm, roughly from the floor level. If you want to get this accurate, you can put a spring line and a level on, but our land is fairly level here, so we're okay. So we'll just give that a little nip. It doesn't need to be too tight. Do the same on all 4 corners and leave the middle ones loose. Okay, the next step's quite simple. We just lift the hoop up and place it onto the foundation tubes, one at once. Let them get, there we go, and then push it down. The next step is to put our ridge tube in. We've got, on this is 15 foot, these are 5 foot ridges. You might get 6 foot ones, but you'll get one plain and then the swaged. Put the plain one in first, and all we need to do for that is just slide it in, really. Do you just want to undo the bolt on the next one, Tom, if you can reach it? Right. Okay, we've got the ridge tube in place. You want to make the end of the tube flush with the end of the bracket and then just nip this up. You can see now we've got all the ridge in place and all that's fastened. We still need to put the plastic bungs in the end, which maybe Tom can do that for us. The next step is to put our diagonals in place. Now these are to make sure that the gable end is plumb, and it also strengthens the gable when we start to pull the cover to. So the first step is to fix it to the clamps that we put on the bottom of the foundation tube. So just take one of these nuts off here and fix the stabilizer to it. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the keyhole clamps that we've got out of the end hoop pack and just put one of these on the end. Make sure that the bolt comes in from the outside, goes through the keyhole clamp, and the diagonal fits on the inside. Don't put it in between the clampers, else it won't tighten up. So we're going to tighten this bottom bracket up first, make sure that's nice and tight, and then what we're going to do is plumb the end up. So we'll use a spirit level, make sure it's plumb on the end. We can adjust this bracket up and down till it is plumb, which is there, and then we're just going to tighten that up. Okay, and we do repeat that on all four corners. You can see now we've got the four corner diagonals. The framework's all plumb at the end. The next step is to put the door frames up. Let's get these up to the frame. We're putting a line across the front, as you can see here. So we'll put this frame behind the back of the line. Stand it approximately in the middle, and then we need to measure. So we'll measure that and get that central. Okay, you can see the gap here now, so this is approximately what we need to dig the trench to put the door posts in, and we leave this batten on and that gets buried in as well. So Tom's just going to mark out roughly where we are. Yeah, and the same at the opposite end. We're fitting the door frame now, so you can see we've got it in place. We've measured from either side to make sure it's central, and we've dug a trench, so you can see we just clear at the top there. What you need to do now is get the brackets drilled, so drill through the bracket and put your bolt in place. What you do need to do is you need to make sure that the door frame is plumb. So we're going to check it here and make sure that the door frame's plumb when you've got it in place. Bolt that up, and then we're ready for the next stage. We're going to mount the door vent panel on the opposite end of our allotment structure now. So I just want you to take notice where we're going to mount this. It wants to be so the velcro here is just under the bottom of the door top there. So we'll just get that somewhere near square, and then we'll just put a couple of tacks in there. One in there. I just want to check it's running parallel down the side. Yeah, we'll put one in there now. Just try and get a little bit of tension on this door as you're doing that. I think we'll just put one in the middle there. On the other side. There we go, and what we're going to do now is batten around this door with these buttons. These go to the outside, like that, about there I'd say. Yeah. They're going to be approximately every 300 to 400 millimetre, these nails. You can see we've pre-nailed the buttons, make things easier for us. Shut the button at the end. Okay, that's our allotment structure now ready for covering. I just want to have a walk around with you and just go through a few details what we've done. Obviously you can see that we've dug our trench, which this polythene goes into. That's approximately a spade width and a spade depth. There's no point scrimping on that really, because that's what's holding your polythene down on your structure. You can see we've got all the structure all anti-hot spot taped up even. I just want you to make sure at this point that you've got the jacking collars set at the right place. And like I said before, when you're building the framework, the end hoops want to be approximately 100mm higher than the inner hoops. What that lets us do is, once we've covered the structure, we can lift these hoops to tension the cover. What we do first of all is we put a batten on, okay, and we nail this batten on. This needs to be nailed probably about every 400mm, something like that. And then what happens when we put the cover on the structure, we pull the polythene over this batten, and then we put another batten in below it. And what that does, it creates like an S anchor and stops the cover from pulling out. So what we do then is we re-nail this up every 300mm. And what you'll see then, instead of it just pulling on the nails, it actually pulls on the lock. So we get a lot stronger sheet fixing in that method. We're now ready to cover our allotment model polytunnel. You can see we've got both doors on. We've got our anchor batten in place, and we've got our door battens ready to go on and pre-nailed, which makes it easier when we start to cover. Okay, they're ready on the floor there. I just want to go through with you the procedure on how to cover a polytunnel really. So what we do firstly is lay the polythene cover down one side, and then we pull it over the structure, making sure it doesn't snag anywhere. Then you want to get it approximately central, and you want to batten the far end door over the door first, just in the centre, 3 nails. Pull the cover here, 3 nails, and then go to the centre on one side and work outwards. So firstly we'll drop the cover in here, and then we'll put some soil on here and here and fill that channel. Then we'll do the same at the other side, and then we'll work out to each corner. But we'll go through it and we'll show you step by step. You can see we've got it laid out now. We're just going to make it approximately even at both ends. Just pull that way, Tom, if you can. Bit more maybe, that'll do. What we're going to look for now is the writing on the polythene cover. So if you search through these layers, you'll see some writing on it. And what you've got to be able to do is read that from the inside. So make sure you can see from the inside it says Lumisol diffused on this cover. So when the cover goes over, that will be on the inside of the framework. That's quite important for the properties of the cover. Right. We're just going to work now to make sure that the cover's even at both ends and both sides. If you look at the cover, you can tell where it's been folded. So one folds here and the other folds here, so we're not far off the centre there, maybe a little touch back. And we are approximately touching at the floor there. I'll go and have a look at the other end. Yeah, we're about the same here. You can see the distance here and here is approximately central, so we know we're okay to put some buttons on here and pull it tight. To do is make sure the polythene's tight here and here, so we'll just put a little bit of a crease in there and a little bit of a crease in there too. That's it. I just need 3 nails to start off with here, and what we're going to do now is start at the other end. If your polythene cover comes and it doesn't reach the floor here, and you might think you've not got enough polythene, but actually what happens is when you pull the polythene round from the corners, it wants to be at this distance, because this is where you're going to pull your polythene to. So it wants to be like that, and as long as you've got enough across this bottom, what you'll do, you'll crease all this in as you go up. I've taken a central grip of the polythene like that, and you can see it's pulling across here and putting a few creases in. So what I wanted to do to get the polythene tight across the ridge and down is give that a good pull. There we go, and then Tom can put that in. So we've now got the polythene secured across the top of the structure. It's more about getting the polythene at this point tight lengthways rather than over the hoops. But we're going to go down to one side and start at one side now. So we're now down the side putting the first bit of soil in the trench, and what we need to do is you need two people to face each other like this, and you can see the hoop. You want your foot just behind the back of the hoop there, and stand the polythene into the trench. Don't try and get it too tight at this point. Okay, like that. And the main thing is to pull the polythene tight between each other. So with the heel of your foot you can pull that backwards a little bit and just get a little bit of tension over the hoop, as you can see there, not too much. But the main thing is getting it tight between each other. And then just get some sods or soil and throw that in just in front of your foot. It's quite important to make sure that you put some drainage holes in the bottom of the polythene, because you're actually making a channel here. So any rain coming off the structure is going to go down into the channel, and that soil is going to be very wet. So we just want to push a fork through, right through the polythene and down, and that'll put some holes in the channel, in the polythene, sorry. And now what we'll do is fill the trench in between. Try and keep the sods for the top so we get a nice finish on it. So the next step, we're on the opposite side now. Again, we're going to put his foot in the trench. Okay. And the main thing is to get the polythene tight in between us. So you just put a little bit more there, Tom. That's it. We're not bothered too much because we're going to jack the hoops up. So I'll just put some holes in it now. There we go, and then we can just backfill that with a bit of soil. Okay, we're going to backfill now that and then put these sods on to make it look nice and neat. This is only a 15-foot long tunnel. You're maybe 20 or 25 or 30, so just keep working out from the centre equally. So we've got a centre there done. We're going to work on this one, then that one, then go across and do the other two corners as well, but just keep working out from the centre. Okay, you can see now we're doing this corner. We want to pull it lengthways and keep the lines vertical on the sheet. You can backfill that one now. When you get to a corner like this of the tunnel, you're going to have to cut the polythene to release it, to let it go back down the other side. So what we do is just go right to the bottom of the trench with a knife and just cut at 45 degrees away from the tunnel, like that, and you'll see that polythene now can go in that trench quite easily. Okay, we're going to start doing this down the side of the door now. First of all, we want to get an idea where the polythene wants to finish across the bottom. So we know it wants to finish there. So what we need to do now is put all this polythene into creases. So just spend a little bit of time arranging these creases and make sure the creases go down and then the rain doesn't collect in them. But I like to put a good couple of big creases in there. Let's try for 3 big ones. So we'll put one here. I'll get Tom now with a batten just to batten that in. Put nails in the top of there now. Or 1 or 2. 2 maybe. And we're going to start with another crease there. Alright, alright. And then we'll have another one. easy now. Yeah. Now we can trench the rest of this corner in here now. We'll backfill the trench. We've buttoned this side of the door on now. I'm just going to trim it off to make it easier to pull the other side a little bit. Make sure you don't cut through like that, or else you cut through your door. So what I suggest is you cut underneath the polythene into the batten and just leave a little bit of excess on there. There we go. Right, we've done that corner now. We're going to do the other 3 corners, battening down and trenching in. We've got the allotment range now, all covered with the polythene. All the trenches are backfilled. We've made a tidy job of putting the sods back on the top. But this is where a Northern Polytunnel really comes into its own. You can see it's tight as a cover, but if the wind's going to blow, it's going to flap. And over years, that'll make the cover less likely to last. It'll give it less service life. What I'm going to show you now is the Northern Polytunnels jacking system, what really makes a difference when it comes to tensioning the covers. So we'll go inside, we'll do a little bit of jacking, and I'll show you the effect outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift the hoop up by hand, and Tom's going to pull the collar up and tighten it up. And we'll go around all the hoops doing that. This is the opposite side now. We're really going to try and put some tension on this now. Let's go outside now and see what difference that's actually made. That's how a tunnel should be tensioned, so it's nice and tight over the arches, and that'll stop any flapping in the wind.